Hmm. One sentence, and the silence grew louder than their entire script. That's how it begins. The room freezes. Their smiles crack. Their carefully built empire trembles on its hollow foundation. You can feel it, can't you? The tension, the fear, the realization that one voice, your voice, was enough to pull their curtain back. They thought they owned the stage. They thought they owned the audience. But the second your words cut through the noise, the show was over. They spent years scripting your life, didn't they? Every line rehearsed, every move directed. You were meant to play the role they carved out for you. Nothing more. Sit still. Speak softly. Obey. Smile when told. Bow when commanded. But then something snapped inside you. Something darker. Something hungrier. And that hunger whispered, burn the script. The moment you opened your mouth, you weren't just breaking lines, you were tearing down their stage with fire. That's the secret they never told you. Power isn't in armies. It isn't in money. It isn't in the seats of control they worship. Power lives in perception, in narrative, in words repeated until they sound like truth. And when one rebel steps forward and says the forbidden sentence, that illusion shatters, like glass, like bone, like the sound of their empire collapsing under its own lies. That sound is addictive, isn't it? That's the sound of freedom. You see, they fear you more than you'll ever fear them. Not because of your strength, not because of your numbers, but because you dared to speak. And once it's spoken, it can't be unsaid. That's the beauty of chaos. It doesn't politely knock at the door. It kicks it down, laughing while they scramble. That's what you did. One sentence, one strike, and the world they wrote for you is already ash. Now you're dangerous because you've tasted it. That rush, that pulse in your veins. When you realized their power was nothing more than smoke, and you coughed it out with laughter. Ha ha ha. They called it rebellion. They called it madness. But to you, it was the first breath of air that was truly yours. And once you breathe that air, you'll never go back to suffocating in their cage. This is where it begins, not in their script, not in their order, but in the sentence you dared to spit in their faces. The words that made silence scream, the words that made puppeteers shake, the words that proved chaos was always stronger than control. And you're the one holding the match. They wrote the script, you played the role, until you didn't. That's the cruel joke, isn't it? They dressed you in their costume, fed you their lines, and called it a lie. And you followed along, day after day, smiling on cue, nodding at the right time, applauding their lies like a good little actor. But deep down, something inside you was itching, scratching, a madness boiling in silence. And then one day, you dropped the mat, you stopped playing their part, and oh, how the audience gasped. Do you see it now? This world is nothing more than a puppet show, strings pulled from above, every movement rehearsed, every smile manufactured. People live and die, never realizing the strings were choking them, never realizing the play was never theirs. But you, haha. You saw the strings, you felt them digging into your skin, cutting into your freedom, and instead of bowing lower, you cut them loose with a single sentence. Snip, snip, just like that. And that's when the panic started. Because when one puppet cuts the strings, the rest begin to question their own. The whole stage trembles. The whole theater cracks. You didn't just free yourself, you exposed the trick. And nothing scares them more than truth. They don't fear guns. They don't fear fists. They fear one voice that refuses to stay scripted. That's why they try to silence it. That's why they try to laugh it off. But laughter, laughter is yours now. You know what's funny? They built their empire on rules and scripts. thinking it would last forever. But a single word from you was enough to flip it upside down, like a card table crashing to the floor, like a deck of lies scattered into chaos. They called you a fool. They called you reckless. But fools don't start revolutions. Reckless ones don't rewrite the world. Only the mad, only the ones who refuse to follow, only the ones who break their script and dance in the ashes. And now, you can never go back. Once you've seen the wires, the tricks, the illusion, you can't unsee it. The laughter doesn't stop. It grows louder, echoing in your head. You were their puppet once. Now, you're the fire they never expected. You're the one who burned the theater down and walked away smiling. Because here's the truth. It was never their story. It was always yours. And the moment you ripped the script apart, you stopped being their actor and became the author. The chaos they feared, the madness they couldn't cage, the sentence that ended their little show. Their power isn't real. It's just belief. That's the razor's edge truth. Sharp enough to bleed you awake. They never held chains. They never carried whips. They only whispered stories. And you believed them. That belief was the leash. That belief was the cage. And once you stop believing, the entire illusion falls apart like wet paper. You thought they were kings, giants, gods of control. But in reality, they were shadows, smoke, propped up by your own obedience. It's pathetic, isn't it? How easy it is to control a crowd with nothing more than repetition. Say a lie enough times, and it becomes law. Repeat it louder, and it becomes culture. Etch it deep enough, and it becomes identity. They built their entire empire not on steel or stone, but on your silence. That's why your sentence was lethal. That's why it burned, because you shattered the one thing they needed most. The illusion of belief. Do you know what happens when people stop believing? The puppet masters lose their strings. The stage lights go dark. The actors walk off the set. The audience leaves the theater. And the ones who once stood so tall, they crumble into nothing, into dust, into nobody's screaming, into the void. And you, you're the one who lit the fuse. You made the believers doubt. You cracked their spell wide open. But here's the twisted beauty. They'll fight to the death to keep their illusion alive. They'll call you insane. They'll paint you as dangerous. They'll twist your words, smear your name, even beg you to take the script back. But once chaos is born, you can't cage it. You can't kill it. You can't put it back in the box. You spoke, and that one sentence made their entire fortress shake like glass under a hammer. So now, what do you see when you look at them? Do you still see rulers, masters, controllers, or do you finally see what they really are? Frightened children hiding behind stories, trembling behind their own lies. That's the punchline. They weren't powerful. You were weak. Until now. Because once the illusion breaks, once you've seen the smoke for what it is, you realize something terrifying. Terrifying for them. Liberating for you. Their power is fake. Yours is real. And they can't write a script strong enough to cage you anymore. Words can wound deeper than bullets. You're shattered their empire. That's the madness of it, isn't it? Steel can cut flesh. Fire can burn skin. But words crawl inside the mind. They infect, they rot, they multiply. A bullet kills once. A sentence kills forever. And your sentence, it was the shot they never saw coming. No gun, no blood, just truth, sharp enough to slice through their fortress like a blade through silk. They laughed at you once, mocked you, called you harmless, because they thought silence meant weakness. But silence was only the inhale before the explosion. And when you finally exhaled, boom, their walls cracked, their lies bled out. One line, one strike. That's all it took to turn their empire into rubble. Because the right words don't ask permission. They don't knock. They invade. They infect. They ignite. And once they land, there's no undoing the fire. You know why they fear rebels more than soldiers? Because rebels don't fight with weapons. They fight with sentences. The kind of words that twist into the soul and rip out the foundation of obedience. That's what you did. You weren't aiming at their bodies. You were aiming at their narrative. And when you hit it, the entire machine seized. 1,000 gears grinding into chaos. And chaos, oh chaos, is louder than any army. They'll never admit it, but they felt it. That sting, that sudden realization that their castle was built on sand. And your voice was the tide. Do you see the cracks now? Do you hear the crumble? That's the sound of control dying. That's the sound of your sentence echoing in the places they thought were untouchable. The throne, the stage, the crowd, all poisoned by one rebel line. And the best part, it wasn't even complicated. It wasn't long. It wasn't grand. It was simple, direct, brutal. The truth always is. That's why it burns. That's why it spreads like wildfire. And now every time they hear your voice, they'll flinch, because they know one more sentence and everything they've built could vanish again. That's your weapon. That's your chaos. Not fists, not fire, not force, but words sharpened into blades dripping with venom, laughing as they slice. That's why they can't kill you. Because how do you kill an idea? How do you silence a sentence that already lives in their heads? Ha ha ha. You can't. And that's why you've already won. Silence is the coffin they built for you. Every time you held your tongue, they smiled wide. Every time you swallowed the truth, their grip tightened. That's the sick comedy of it. They never needed to chain you. They never needed to cage you. All they had to do was convince you to stay quiet. And in that silence, you buried yourself alive. One breath at a time, one lie at a time, until your voice was nothing but dust in your throat. But silence isn't peace. No, silence is poison. It eats you from the inside. You feel it, don't you? That heaviness in your chest. That scream locked behind your teeth. That rage echoing in your skull, begging to be unleashed. And still you said nothing. You played along. You bowed your head. You called it survival. But survival at the cost of your voice isn't living. It's decay. It's death disguised as obedience. And here's the punchline: they knew it. They fed off it. Every time you stayed silent, they grew stronger. Every word you didn't say was another brick in their fortress. Your silence was the fuel that kept their machine alive. You weren't just a prisoner. You were the builder of your own cage. The perfect irony. The perfect irony. The perfect yoke. But the day you broke it, the day you finally spoke, everything changed. One sentence and suddenly the silence shattered like glass. Do you remember that sound? That first crack of your voice breaking free? That was the sound of resurrection. That was the sound of every suppressed word clawing its way out of the grave you dug for them. The coffin split open. The silence died. And you came alive. They'll beg for your silence now. They'll bribe. They'll threaten. They'll mock. Because they know as long as you're silent, they're safe. But once you speak, once you dare to spit truth in their faces, the empire wobbles. The illusion shakes. The crowd starts listening. And nothing terrifies them more than ears turned toward a voice they can't control. So here's the truth you can't ignore. Silence isn't neutral. Silence is surrender. And every second you keep quiet, You bury yourself deeper in the coffin they built. But when you speak, you burn the coffin. You burn the theater. You burn their script. And in the ashes you stand, laugh, breathing, alive. They call it chaos. You call it freedom. That's the twist, isn't it? To them, chaos is destruction. To you, chaos is the first breath after drowning. It's the laugh that rips through a funeral of lies. They built their world on order, rules, systems, obedience. But order was just another word for control, another word for prison. And when you tore it apart, when you flipped their table and scattered their script, they screamed chaos. But you smiled, because chaos is the only place where you finally felt alive. Look at their order. Was it ever real? Or was it just a cage painted gold? Work, obey, repeat, smile when told, clap when commanded. That's not order. That's slavery dressed as stability. But once you ignite chaos, oh, everything shifts. Walls crumble, masks fall, truth bleeds into the streets. And suddenly the world looks different, messy, unpredictable, beautiful. Because freedom was never clean. Freedom was always chaos in disguise. They'll tell you you're insane. They'll call you reckless. They'll say you've lost control. Ha 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 ha. Control? That's the joke. You didn't lose control, you stole it back. They just can't stand that you're no longer playing their game. Because when you dance with chaos, you stop being predictable. And predictability, that's how they ruled you. But now, you're untouchable, unscripted, dangerous. And oh, how sweet it is to watch them panic. To watch their neat little lines unravel into knots. To watch their carefully stacked empire collapse like cards in the wind. That's the gift of chaos. It doesn't just destroy, it exposes. It shows the world that their order was never strong, never perfect, never untouchable. It was fragile, weak, waiting for one spark. And you lit the match with laughter. So tell me, why fear chaos when it's the only thing that ever set you free? Order is comfort. Chaos is rebirth. And in that rebirth, you don't crawl, you roar. You don't bow, you rise. You don't obey, you burn. That's the power of it. That's the madness they'll never understand. And that's why they'll always fear you. Because to them, chaos means the end. But to you, chaos is the beginning. Look in the mirror. Do you see you or their script? Go on. Stare. Hold your own eyes and don't look away. Do you recognize the face staring back? Or is it just a mask they built for you? The haircut they told you was acceptable. The smile rehearsed to make others comfortable. The clothes, the posture, the tone of voice all stitched together by their hands. Not yours. You thought it was identity. But it was costume. And behind the costume, who the hell are you? That's the sickest trick of all. They didn't just control your actions. They colonized your reflection. They made you doubt your own laugh. They made you question your own fire. They took your edges and filed them down until you fit neatly in their box. And you lived like that, pretending, performing, playing their character. Until one day you looked in the mirror and realized you don't even know your own face anymore. That's where the madness begins. That's where the laughter claws its way out of your chest. Because once you see the mask, you can't unsee it. You can't unfeel it. And the rage, oh, the rage, it burns hot. Not at them, but at yourself. For letting it happen, for selling yourself cheap, for living like a copy when you were born original. Ha ha ha. That rage is your awakening. That's the crack in the mask. That's where the real you begins to bleed through. And here's the brutal truth. You'll never meet yourself in silence. You'll never find yourself in obedience. You only find yourself in rebellion, in breaking, in chaos. The mirror doesn't reveal you. It reveals the prison. And once you see the prison, you only have two choices. Go back to sleep or burn the damn thing down. There's no middle, no safety net, no gentle way out. So what do you see now? A stranger, a puppet, or something rawer, something sharper? The kind of person who doesn't wear masks anymore, who doesn't bow, who doesn't smile unless they mean it. The kind of person who looks in the mirror and finally sees power, not borrowed, not given, taken, claimed, owned. That's why they'll always hate mirrors. That's why they'll try to keep you too busy, too distracted, too numb to ever stop and look. Because if you do, if you ever really look, you'll see what they've tried to hide your whole life. That you were never theirs to control. That you were always meant to break the glass. And when you smash that mirror with your bare hands, laughing as the shards fall at your feet, that's when you'll finally see yourself.